Welcome to the latest edition of the Mom's Playbook podcast. My name is Heather James, and as always, I'm joined by my pod partner, Jasmine Zor. In each episode, created by sports moms for sports moms, we dive into the intricacies of raising a student athlete, from managing practice schedules and travel arrangements to insider tips on recruiting, all while balancing our careers. We know each sport has its unique challenges, and we aim to explore and understand them all. Along the way, we share stories, enjoy some laughter, because, as moms, we understand the chaos, but wouldn't want to be anywhere else. Let's jump in.
We're excited. Melanie Williams has joined us today. Melanie is a mom to basketball player Terrence Williams II. He was named the Basketball DC Player of the Year in 2020. He played 4 years at Michigan before transferring to USC. Welcome, Melanie. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
Great. Well, now, before we get started, if you want to tell us a little about yourself, your Terrence's dad, your husband, did you play sports, anything you want us to know before we get started?
Absolutely. So I am mom, wife to husband of 20, oh my goodness, 20 plus years. I think it's coming on 22 years. Mom of two beautiful kids, Terrence Williams II and Michaela Williams, who is a rising fourth year at University of Virginia. We live in Clinton, Maryland, been here for 15 years, but been in the Prince George's County, Maryland area forever. At least the kids were born, so at least 20, coming up on 25 years when Terrence turns 25 in December. So sports-wise, I am the most unathletic person you will ever meet. Never played a sport. I am 5'8", so everyone used to always try to get me to play basketball, volleyball. Never wanted to sweat, never wanted to get dirty. It was never my thing. My daughter's like me. T, however, I'm gonna call him T. I call him T. The world calls him T Will, but he's still T to me. Little T sometimes. I think he started, I don't know, he was a chunky kid. So I think around about 5 is when we were like, oh, maybe he needs to thin out a bit. So I think that's kind of when our sports journey started, and you name it, we tried it. But yeah, really stable home, fortunate for that, and two amazing kids and a great husband and father.
Great. So, Terrence, he started with basketball. Did he play other sports throughout the years?
He did. I'm grateful the basketball stuck because we started with, let's see, what did we start with? We started with T-ball, and then tried baseball. So T-ball, you graduate to baseball. Then we tried football, then basketball. We thought football was going to stick. I think it was more so my husband wanted football to stick because, I said basketball, I meant football. Wanted football to stick because he played football at Howard University in Bowie State. So his dream was probably to have a son that played football. But my son was always big for his age. And so with football, he always had to play up. He got hit one time and one time only. And that's when I was like, nope. Because he was like 9 playing with 12 and 13-year-olds. And I was like, you're not doing that to my son. Nope, one hit and that was done. So then we focused on basketball. T-ball didn't really stick, or baseball. So we focused on basketball. And that was with Forestville Falcons when he was like 5 or 6, rec ball. And the rest is history.
So one hit was all it took, huh?
Come on, mama was like, one hit. You're not going to be out there hitting my baby. No, one hit. And he even looked at me like, Mom, like, what in the world just happened to me? I was like, we're not doing no football. Kudos to all of the football moms out there. Sheree, my girlfriend Sheree, is one of them. And I commend her. You know, she sits and she has to watch that. Her son gets hit.
And he gets hit over and over and over and over.
Yes.
Yes, as a running back, he's always getting hit.
Always getting hit. Nope. Takes a
So
different.
how did your boys, did they go to school together? How did they meet?
So T played rec ball at Forestville. Then we were like, oh, he's kind of tall. He might have a future. Who knew, right? You think every parent thinks that their kid is like the next Kobe, LeBron, Jordan, right? We weren't that crazy because he was still a little chunky. So we were like, oh, okay, well, let's just see where this goes. He was always tall. So then we transferred to the AAU scene, and T's first team was DC Assault and then Takeover. And we just met, my gosh, almost 15 years ago now when our boys played on the same AAU team.
So how big is he? Let's put that into perspective for those that are listening. What is a D1, Power 4 conference player look like?
Okay, so get this, y'all. He's actually considered short. He's 6'7". Considered short for he plays like the 3-4. He started off playing a 5, which is a center forward, and then I forgot what the 3 is, y'all. But he's considered short for he's actually considered kind of short, but he's always made it work. But he's 6'7", 215, pretty solid.
Yeah, that's a great size. So 6'7", for those listening, is considered short in D1 Power 4. So put that into perspective as you're looking at your kid. Are they going to make it or not? 6'7".
6'7". I mean, the good thing though is it's positionless basketball now. But for example, he may play with a guard that's 6'8". So I mean, really, 6'7" at one point probably was considered extremely tall. But just think about that.
I'm sure he was considered very tall in high school when he was playing with other, not all, Power 5 or Power 4 D1 guys. That's a big young man. I'm sure his football coaches were just drooling over possibly allowing him to get hit a few more times.
Yes, if that would have just let it go, he would have been like an amazing size for
Yeah.
football for sure. But basketball, he's made it work.
Yeah, no, that's great.
When he was graduating, how tall was he then? Was he did he grow into the 6'7" through college, or was he 6'7" back in high school?
No, he's been 6'7" since high school. I don't know. When I see him, I'm like, T's got a little bit taller. And he's like, it's good for business, mom. I hope so. But I think he's hovering around that 6'7" mark still. He's thinned out. He's extremely lean now. And maybe that does it.
I love that 6'7" is good for business. That's a great line, actually. So what did his recruitment process look like? How did he end up at first Michigan and now USC?
So he played in WCAC. So if anyone's in the DC area, that is like the league to the conference to be in. It's like known across the country. And so he graduated from Gonzaga. So of course Gonzaga was a big WCAC basketball high school. And so he was recruited from freshman year on. Michigan came at the last minute. Kind of an interesting story. He had committed to Georgetown, which was his father's dream. His father was like, he could play at home and he could play under, at the time Ewing was the coach, and he could be like this, amazing local athlete celebrity. But my son didn't really want to go to Georgetown. His heart wasn't totally in Georgetown. He always thought that he could be at a higher, no offense to Georgetown, right? But he always knew that he could be more of like a power D1. And Jawan had just gotten a coaching job at Michigan, and we were at EYBL, which is the Nike tournament for AAU down in Augusta, Georgia. And Jawan watched him play, and he had heard T's name come up a couple of times, and we were on our way back home, and Jawan called me, and the rest is history. T got excited, and we looked up, and we had an offer from Michigan, and that's where he wanted to play with Jawan. He wanted to, the Fab Five had a storied history, and so it was just an honor to him to go to Michigan and play under Jawan.
So one phone call was all it took?
One phone call, because my son lit up. Coaches were, telling you, any parent that's going through the recruiting process, it can get overwhelming. In the beginning, you're like, wow, the love. That's when you realize how good your kid is, when the coaches start coming. And so you settle into oh, wow, he's really good. But by the time we got to the end, my son was tired. We were just all tired. But he lit up when Jawan called and when he talked to Jawan. And I was like, you know what? That's it. So he decommitted from Georgetown and committed to Michigan. He was not the local favorite at that time. The Georgetown fans were not happy at all, but
yeah, they wanted their hometown hero.
They did, but
yeah.
Jawan was just the way he lit up. It was perfect.
So for those who might be listening that may not understand who you're referring to, who is Jawan and how is he connected to Michigan?
Okay, so Jawan Howard was a member of the Fab Five, the storied Fab Five back in, oh my goodness, was that the 80s?
No, 90s. I think 90s.
Jawan was like, why are you making me so old?
Right.
They were just like this historic team that played with the University of Michigan and came all the way down to championship games. Then Jawan went on to play in the NBA. He went on to coach in the NBA. And so it was just he knew that story.
We all know that story if you follow basketball.
Yeah.
It's a great history to go there and play. So I can imagine just that history alone was enticing him to go be a part of it.
Yes. And there was excitement around Jawan back at Michigan, right? And
yeah.
And, and I say in that process, I learned another message for parents that are traveling this journey, you got to listen to your kid. The Georgetown, Michigan scenario was just evidence of that. Like my son never wanted to like disappoint his dad, but at the same time, he knew that his heart really wasn't there. And so I was that referee, and between the two of them, I was like, you have to listen to your kid. They know, like listen to where their energy goes and their excitement goes. So yeah.
So when it comes to basketball recruiting, if I'm hearing you correctly, we're going to take the get started route. What age did he start traveling and going to those big AAU tournaments? Do you still feel that AAU is the path for moms out there who are, thinking about where they're spending their money? Are they spending their money on AAU? Is that kind of what you feel is the right path?
I'm gonna say that that's a lot to that question.
Yeah.
I'm going to say that I think AAU can be a critical stepping stone for any child playing basketball. And I say that with a footnote. You have to be on the right circuit. He was lucky that he was on the Nike circuit. The Nike circuit is, a well-known circuit. It's one of the most highly regarded circuits. So he was able to be on Team Takeover, who also had an amazing history at EYBL. It was a winning team. He actually played. If you have a son that's like sitting on the bench, he's not getting better. He's not being seen in front of coaches. And coaches come to EYBL. You like rub shoulders. Well, you can't really rub shoulders against the law, but you see like all these big time coaches from afar, and it's like you're amongst celebrities. And so you need that platform. But if your kid isn't playing, then they don't know him. They don't know his name. So I think you just have to like really make sure that if it's not Nike, maybe it's Adidas, maybe it's Under Armour, but it has to be somewhere where he's going to get exposure.
Yeah, I don't think a lot of parents understand that there are actually different levels to AAU. You can play, they have like a D1 AAU, which is like the highest level, right? So like the Nike circuit, like what you're talking, national tournaments, lots of travel, lots of weekends away.
Yes.
Not just the local tournaments. Those coaches are going to those big events. They're not necessarily coming to the lower level AAU
Yes.
or USSSL. Those lower levels, you're not getting as many coaches or any coaches. You might get an AIA D3 at those, but if you're...
Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't want to interrupt.
No, go ahead.
But I think, and that's where, because, my husband used to always say, everyone has an address. If you're good, coaches are going to find you, regardless of what circuit you're on. So we also try to remember that. Like, but T always played. Like, he always started, he was always seen. He had that opportunity to be seen. But I think a lot of parents, like we've seen this a lot of parents push their kids, and maybe basketball, they just don't want to really play. Or maybe they think their kid is, sometimes it's the fathers, like, it's a reality check. Like, no, maybe your son maybe he's better at D2 or D3, and there's nothing wrong with that. But the pressure that you're putting them under to try to compete and be something that they're not is also like heartbreaking in the end. Can be.
Right. Now, Melanie, how much, when you say you traveled, how much traveling, how far did you go? How much traveling did you actually do?
Oh my gosh. And that's another thing that they don't think about. It's not like they're giving us any money to travel. We have to travel, and we have to pay for games, and we have to pay tournament fees. We traveled as far as, so T would also get invited to play with like other teams across the country. So he played down in Dallas. He played for a team in Los Angeles area. So we've been like literally coast to coast with basketball. My daughter, this is the benefit of having one of the benefits. She saw the country. Basketball took us across the country literally. And we were fortunate enough to be able to piece together the money to make it happen. But we tried to treat it as like family trips, and all of us would go to these trips. But literally across the country, we've been able to see because of basketball.
So side note, I used to coach a small travel basketball girls team, and it always blew me away that parents were required to pay to join a team, right? Pay for all the expenses involved with that. So uniforms, practice facilities,
Yep.
that basic. Then you're paying entry fees into the tournaments.
Yep.
And by the way, you got to pay again if you want to get in and watch your kid play.
Yep.
And probably parking. Let's be honest,
Yep.
probably parking at the venue.
And God forbid you want a weekend pass. Like you could do game by game, or you could do a weekend pass that could be $60+
each,
plus a hotel,
right?
plus a flight if you didn't
Right.
want to drive. We drove a lot. We spent hours in them cars for sure. But no, it's not cheap.
It's not cheap. And that's why it's important to understand, like you said, is your kid really want to do this? Or are you just, putting money out there to have fun, which there's nothing wrong with. You could waste money going to Disney or SeaWorld.
Right.
And the same thing goes, you're paying that entry fee, you're paying that parking, all the same things kind of go
The
up with,
time,
yeah.
your time. So EYBL in Vegas, when they would play in the Vegas tournaments, I take off. Well, I really wouldn't take. I was fortunate enough to be in a position. I'm a chief strategy officer for like a nonprofit organization. So I'm accustomed to working remotely, but juggling. If you have a demanding job, I was juggling meetings. I was trying to fit time off, balancing time zones. Like, no, it's the untold story.
So how did you balance all that?
I would dip out to the car to take conference calls. I would have my laptop with me at games. I would find a cubby inside of a convention center that, like, if I had to be on video, like, I just made it happen. Cause I was like, as long as you're happy, as long as you're smiling, I'm going to support the dream. I'll do whatever is needed. Like, my husband doesn't have as much flexibility in his work, but I was fortunate enough to just be able to be there and just make it work. But it wasn't easy. And then I would take off whenever I just could not make it work.
Typical mom making it work, right?
Yep. You know how
Yeah.
we do. You know how
So
we do.
Jasmine and I are both football moms, and football and basketball world is completely different. When it comes to football, you play for your high school team, and then there's no travel season. I mean, there is little bit there. My son played a little travel football, but let's not even go there because it's not the same. But you play high school, and then you kind of shift into camp season,
Uh-huh.
where in football you're going to the camps, you're looking for that exposure via camps. But with basketball, it's 12, right?
There was never a time. I can't even tell you when we did not play basketball. It was nonstop because you went from, okay, let me see. What month are we starting from? Are we starting from January? Let's start from January. So
Okay.
January, you're still in like college. I mean, you're still in high school ball. Around the springtime, your AAU kicks in. So then you're juggling, finishing up high school ball, but then you're also doing AAU practice. AAU is all the way through the summer to like July, August-ish, I guess. Yeah, like July. Maybe there might be some August tournaments. You're still, T was still working out, still doing things. You may have invitationals with AAU that you're juggling. Then your high school picks up, high school ball picks up. And so then you're in high school ball from like late summer, early fall to January, February.
So it's nonstop.
It's nonstop. It's nonstop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
he didn't play any other sports in high school. Basketball was his main focus.
No, we couldn't because you couldn't fit it in.
Yeah.
Like people would try to get him to play like lacrosse or I forgot who tried to recruit him for some sport. I forgot what it was, but it was like, where do you fit that in?
Yeah, that's hard.
Yeah.
And then how does it work when you get those invites to play for a one-off team for just a weekend? Do those come a month in advance? How long did you guys have to plan financially and working your schedule to make those things happen?
I mean, you might get a couple weeks or a month in advance, and then it's like, hey, we got the flight, we got the this, we got the that. We just need you to show up. So yeah, that's for him. But then it's like I'm not gonna. Very rarely did I ever send my kid off just like without me. So I was like, okay, well I have to figure it out. It's a commitment. Like basketball, yeah, I don't even know football because I was gonna say Pop Warner for football. That's all I think is the equivalent of AAU, but maybe it's not. But yeah, you have and again, I go back to like listening to your kid. Like if your kid is like struggling or not playing and you're investing thousands of dollars a trip, you have to think about that. But yeah, sometimes it would be a month, maybe 3 to 4 weeks notice.
And you would just pop those in between his commitment to his true home team.
Yep.
That's crazy.
It's crazy. But like I wouldn't trade it for the world. I think just to travel, like he knows how to travel. He knows, his character building. I mean, he faced adversity, so yeah, you know this. I mean, it's the same with football, any team sport. They navigate life. It teaches them how to just like navigate the struggles, like the highs and lows, the celebrations. Like it just really teaches them how to balance life and just, yeah, I wouldn't trade it for the world.
There's a lot of AAU teams out there. What kind of advice would you give to a mom who has let's say 10, 11-year-old looking for their first AAU team? What kind of things should they look for in a coach and in a program?
That is a great question because I also have my theory on like elementary and middle school ball because I think a lot of parents think like you couldn't tell us that those middle school years weren't everything. We were like, oh, this is like going to dictate everything about his future. This middle school ball, like they ranked the kids. They, said that they were going to be, this was a projected round one draft pick, and they're in seventh and eighth grade. They're the next phenom. And we always say, like, where are those kids now? I think so much pressure. Like, a lot of kids hit ceilings in middle school, and it's like, where are those kids now? But I would just say, like, if you have a child that is interested in basketball and you recognize the skill and the gift early on, focus on fundamentals. Focus on a coach that is going to teach them fundamentals and not just what happens on that court. Not just showing up to play, but a coach that really invests in practice. We were fortunate enough that with Takeover, Keith Stevens, who's the owner of Takeover, he invested in their mental health. He would bring them together for like team outings. He would just make sure that there was more of a completeness around basketball. So it wasn't just showing up for the game, but it was working out, teaching fundamentals, not rewarding bad play or bad behavior. So just a coach is going to invest in your kid beyond just playing time and beyond that game situation.
That's great advice, actually,
Yeah,
because you don't want to just focus on basketball and then not hit 6'7" and be considered small, right? Six
exactly.
seven is a giant to me. So you're right. If you remain focused, so hard focused in middle school, if your kid doesn't continue to grow, what else are they going to do,
That's what
right?
they're gonna do. What
Yeah.
else are they gonna do? And I can't stress that enough. It's like in middle school, okay, it's focus on skills building, focus on fundamentals because the clock starts all over again once they become a freshman. It's like middle school. What do they do in middle school? Who cares? The clock starts all over again come freshman year.
Yeah, it does. You're right. Jasmine and I know all about rankings and that pressure that comes with where you're ranked and where you're not ranked.
Yep.
Um, how did you guys handle that sort of thing when it was happening in middle school? And even, I mean, even in high school, there all the stars are attached at that point.
Yes.
3-star, 4-star, all that kind of
Yes.
nonsense, 5-star. How did you guys
Yes.
handle that as a family?
I'm not gonna lie, come middle school, we were like, such and such is ranked higher than T. How could they? Like T does shows up and da da da. We fell into it. We totally fell into it.
We feel you on that one so
I'd be
much.
lying if I said, don't fall into it. Y'all are gonna parents out there, you're gonna fall into it. You're
You
just
are.
going to. So it's kind of funny looking back on it now. But I totally forgot your question.
How did you guys handle like the pressure that came with being a 3-star, 4-star, 5-star, all that stuff?
Oh, okay. So he was consistently a 4-star. So I will say that he was always ranked like top 100, and in Maryland he was always like top, top in his position. So we were fortunate in that way that he was pretty consistent. But there was always pressure to like maintain that, like I look back on it and I'm like so amazed that he's a chill kid. But the pressure that he felt from middle school on, just trying to maintain 4-star and getting critiqued, like seeing critiques from like sports analysts as a freshman and like talking about his upswing or his negatives, like we just had to try to keep him. We always home was always going to be a safe space. So even my husband, like he and I would have like conversations about like he really sucked in that game, but we're never gonna let him know that. Because home was always going to be a soft landing, and I think that's important too. Like your kid is gonna need a soft landing because it's not gonna always be pretty, particularly if they're ranked like T was.
And
Great.
Melanie, how do they become a Gatorade Player of the Year? What's that process? How does that work?
He had an amazing high school career. Shout out to Coach Steve Turner at Gonzaga, who's now moving on. But Coach Turner, he had a great relationship with his coach. He had a great relationship with his teammates. He had good chemistry. Coach Turner trusted T, and T wanted it. Like T, like he just excelled in high school, and I think he was given the space to be the player that he was. Like he was able to just be who he was naturally as a player, and it came naturally to him. We were shocked about the Gatorade Player of the Year, but I think I'm shocked throughout the whole journey because you never know your kid is that good until you're like, dang, really? Gatorade? You're that good?
And that happened to us. as my son was growing up, that he would do these things, and my husband and I, we'd go to a camp and he'd win it, and we'd walk away and go, "How did he do that? Did we really just see that?" And then he'd go and he'd win something else, and we'd go, we were just always so much in awe. We gave him the space to do it, and he would go and do these things, and there's like a little bit of like, you're always the person that's going to stand right behind and say, yeah, he's the guy, he knows everything, he can do it. But then when he really does do it, there's just like this, I can't believe he could do it feeling.
Yes, Jasmine, exactly. We were just like, wow. Every time he would he that year he was Gatorade Player of the Year, then he was DC Player of the Year. They won the DC State Championship. He's always been in the championship for WCAC. And with every monumental event or every win, we're always like, damn, you're really good.
Well, to put it in perspective as well, I mean, there's only a handful of scholarships for every Division One Power Four school, right? It's not like football. There's 85 right now as we're speaking. There's 85 scholarships in football. And football and basketball are the same. It's all or nothing. There's no partial. It's full scholarship or no scholarship. You're considered a walk on.
Yep.
And there's 12 to 15 depending on the level, right? Whether it's D1, D2, D3. So you're still to get a scholarship in basketball is still a much smaller number than in football.
Yes, yeah, less positions.
Yeah, less positions, less money. Well, NIL might be changing. We'll see. I know basketball at some schools is the sport. So those schools are going to focus some of their allocation money, more of their allocation money to basketball. But it's still a big deal to be offered a full scholarship at that level because there's so few.
Yeah, 1%. Like at one point, the statistic, when we would remind him of that, like you're the 1% of basketball players that have the chance to play at the D1 level. 1%. When you think of the thousands of kids out there playing basketball.
I remind mine of that all the time, how lucky he was to be in the position. And I think my son in particular, and Jasmine's son as well, I think they fell into this really special time of college football, because not only were they able to have full scholarships and live that life, but it was the beginning of NIL. They were still part of NIL. And now, it was just a little sweet honey hole in my opinion, of a time, because now it's changing so much. I don't know.
Have they graduated? Are they still in?
Mine's graduated. Yeah. And mine actually coaches football now. Yeah. He's coaching at his alma mater, which is really kind of cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's fun. I still get football. So selfishly, I'm still a football mom.
And then mine played with Justice. So he graduated the year Justice did. And then he went on, he's getting his master's right now.
At Wake Forest or Indiana?
He graduated from Wake Forest. So they went to Wake Forest together.
Okay.
It was 4 years. And then Justice went to Indiana and Jacob went to Syracuse.
Okay. Got it. Okay. That's such
good football.
Yeah.
But it's so special to have the opportunity to play on a full scholarship at a big school. So I know he's not at Michigan anymore, but let's start with Michigan.
Okay.
How did that process work? In football, you get to go on an official visit. You get to do all these kind of extra things when you're being recruited. Is it the same for basketball?
Yeah, we had amazing visits. Like I will say, I thoroughly enjoyed the visits because they roll out the red carpet. I'm a foodie. I feel like they found the best restaurants and best things in that particular city. Shout out to Chicago when we visited DePaul. Amazing visit. But yes, it's just the same. It's the same. They roll out the red carpet. You get to see the amazing facilities. You get up close and personal with the coaches and the coaching staff. Academics was always high on my priority list. T maintained a 3.78 all throughout his high school career and even college. So that was always important for me. So we chose academics and athletics, and Michigan gave both. It was the top 5 public university. I think it was like UVA in Michigan are like 1 and 2. And so he got a good education and was developed as a player.
How many official
visits? It was an
visits?
amazing visit. We did the same. We did the visit in December, and he committed actually that same, because the time was of the essence, so he had to commit almost immediately.
Yeah, those spots fill up very quickly, so you want to lock it in.
Yep.
As soon as possible. How many official visits did you guys take?
So there was a limit. There was a cap on how many official visits you could take at the time. I don't know why 5 is sticking out in my mind. I think it is. I think it was 5. Yeah, I think it was 5. So we had to pick and choose because there were quite a few teams that were interested in having him in, but that's where it was important for us to sit down as a family, think about what's important for both. And again, academics was big for us. Some families, it's all about, hey, who's going to get you to the draft in 2 years? But we knew that T was a 4-year player. He was never the most athletic kid, but he had a high IQ. He had a lot of intangibles, but we knew that he wasn't going to be a one and done kid. So academics was really important for us. So once we sat down and like outlined the qualities that we're looking for in university and the coaching and a like overall environment, we used that to then prioritize visits in schools.
Did you make spreadsheets? How did you kind of prioritize things? I'm a spreadsheet girl, so I always ask that question.
I am a spreadsheet girl. Yes, I did the spreadsheet. I don't even know if they even know I did the spreadsheet, but I was like, T, remember you said Notre Dame was X, Y, and Z. That's what you liked about it. But the spreadsheet was helpful because it made him remember what he felt was important, because it got overwhelming at some point.
Yeah, it is a very overwhelming process. I think that's one of the main messages that we want to get out to anybody listening is, prioritize it, because it does become, prioritize the priorities, because if not, you become, just so engulfed in this process of, nonsense, really, ultimately, right? A lot of it is nonsense.
Yeah.
You have to figure it out and figure out who you trust and who's telling you the right things and the honest things. So yeah, it's crazy. We only went on
You
with
mentioned
one.
a good point, Heather.
What's
like
that?
like at the end of the day, like the recruitment process is business. These coaches are trying to get the best players on their team. You have to decipher, like, we even looked at how they were recruiting. Like, are they recruiting over you? Like, if you're in one position, how many power forwards are they recruiting? Where are they? Like, we studied, because the coaches will tell you what you want to hear because they want you. So deciphering who was like really like on it, who was like really interested in T versus like who just needed to fill a roster was critical.
Yeah, I know Jasmine and I have talked about this a lot over our years of friendship, is that we prioritize, we, ranked who was ahead of you. Our kids played a specialized position. So there was only one of the 85 on scholarship. And if there was already a starter there and he had the scholarship and he was a year or two older, when are you going to get that scholarship? It's not going to be open for another 3 years or 2 years. So we just eliminated schools that we knew did not need my son's position immediately.
Yep. And my husband and son were good at that, because my husband would say,
right.
And it was the relationship, Heather and Jasmine. Like, I don't know if you all found this during your recruiting process, but I'm big on relationships and like the energy of people. And so if the head coach is calling you, T, and they're like congratulating you on good games or calling to give you feedback on maybe a bad game they had, we take a strengths-based approach on a game that needed improvement. They're taking an interest in you versus someone sending their cadre of assistant coaches to call you every. So we paid attention to that too, like which coaches were really staying in close contact with him.
It's a parent thing. I think that genuine relationship was something that I know I wanted for my son. I needed him to have good men.
Yep.
Showing him the way. That's a critical time for a young man, being away from home. Who was going to be watching out for him? Yep. I wanted a good human being in charge of my son. And to me, there was no better human being than who my son played for at that particular time and who was recruiting him. Like nobody else to me, at that time was as good as those gentlemen. And still to this day, I adore them. My son's first job out of college was working underneath the coach that recruited him. So that relationship just,
absolutely
just kept building.
Yeah, T and Coach Howard are like his son's joke. Like he likes you more than he even likes me. Like Jace and T are close. Jace Howard and T are close. And Jace would always say, like, you're really his son. Like, Coach Howard and T just formed this amazing bond. Like they're close to this day. And I shout out to his wife Janine, who like looked after T as if he were her own child. So like I felt like he had a village around him even at Michigan, and that was important.
You mentioned something that no other mom has mentioned, and that is the role of the coaches' wives. They are actually super special they are taking them out to dinner or over to their homes, for a celebration, having the whole unit over to their house. It's bigger for football. There's a lot more guys when you have like the whole offensive line over, or the whole quarterback room, or you can invite over 12 and that'll be the whole basketball team, right? But those 12 might just be a little part of a football team, but those coaches' wives have an important role as well.
They are the unsung heroes, honestly, because their mom when we're not there, frankly.
Yeah, I had a
And
lot.
Coach Martelli's wife, like shot, like they were just amazing. Yeah.
I had a lot of peace of mind when my son, when he first got there, it was COVID right then. So and then he tested positive. They did all the things with him, but his special teams, the wife, she, brought him things, dropped him off in his place. She really kept an eye on him. And then she would text me back to say he's doing okay. So, I'm still friends with her. It's
Yeah.
amazing, all
Same.
that they do.
Same. I mean, yeah, exactly. COVID. Let's not even talk about how they were essentially mom in COVID because we couldn't get to them. We weren't allowed to, you know?
Right.
So, yeah. Yeah. Shout
So
out.
you went from being a mom who was at every travel tournament weekend with T to sending him states away. Not every game, no matter if it was a home game or not, every game at that point becomes an away game because you have to travel to it. How did you handle that? How did you prepare for it? How many games were you guys able to attend? How did that kind of everything being away game look for you?
I am blessed to say that I made it to most games. I was that mom that because Detroit was an hour from DC. It was an easy flight. During COVID, the flights were so cheap.
That's true.
I had like I have amazing Bonvoy is my property. I was able to just like there was no one at the hotels. I've got hotels for like $60 a night, flights for like $100. So I think it was COVID was a gift and a curse in that I was really able to just hop on a plane and be there for most games. Yeah,
You made it to most of his college basketball games.
I did.
I am beyond impressed right now. There's a lot of basketball games in a season. It's not like football. There's 10.
Go to most like so his away games was so he got to play Penn State, Maryland, and Rutgers. So I would like drive to all those games. And then most Michigan games, I was there. But if you played like Iowa, some of the like Midwest, deep Midwest, I never went to Ohio State game. Imagine that I went to Ohio State. But if I wasn't there, he pretty much was always had some family representation at a game.
Oh,
That be cousins or close family friends. He was fortunate to always have some fan in the stands for him.
never made it to Ohio State on purpose. You didn't want to step foot on cat campus or what?
I tell you, those Big Ten fans. I mean, you all know this. I don't know if we're going to even get into the fans, but you gotta the okay, the fans and that Ohio State Michigan rivalry is real. So no, I never made it to Ohio State game. I love my husband would always go, and close family friends would always go, but I never made it to that game.
That's probably a good thing. My worst memories are rivalry games and dealing with the fans and the
It's social
ugliness that
media.
can come from it. Yeah.
Yeah, social media and fans do not go well together because there's a lot of keyboard gangsters out there that I think back in our day, like we didn't have social media, but now our guys have got to they deal with the pressure of social media, the betting on games, so it's social media was like a cesspool of just negativity. Like I never followed Michigan basketball page on Instagram or any social media platform. I deleted my Twitter account. Like I stayed away from it because it just it was ugly.
So you never saved on the positive side of things. We'll touch on the negative here in a
Mhm.
second. But on the positive side, you never got to see the graphics that the marketing department put out with T on it, or you missed all that good stuff?
It would always make its way to me because my
Okay.
husband he
Okay,
was an
good.
avid follower, so he would and Michaela, his my daughter, so it would make its way to me, but
Okay.
I never followed the sports pages.
That might be a good tip for moms out there and their mental health. We already mentioned ranking and how stressful those rankings and those stars make us as parents because we're protective of our children. But even social media, I mean, there were days I wanted to just strangle somebody for the things that they were saying, not necessarily about my child, but his teammates,
Yep.
because they have
Yep.
family. We sit around them in the stands and you don't want to
Exactly.
hear all of that.
No. I mean, the good thing is people have a short memory. It's like, T may have a not so great game and the fans would go in on him. I think the worst was a fan that had like said that they just need to leave T in the ditch. And my husband, like, the AP actually ended up calling my husband to do a whole article, Athletes and Mental Health. Because
The Associated Press?
yeah, Associated Press called my husband and he did an article on athletes and mental health because of he was like, no, you're not going to. He's like, why can't I defend my son? You're going to talk about my son, but who says that I don't have the right to defend my kid? And he would go back to fans. But yeah.
But he's not wrong. I mean, if they have the freedom to come at your child, when is where's the line? I know the NCAA has tried to set some boundaries. They've done some ad programs. They've even called fans losers in ads, encouraging them not be losers and DM these kids and say these negative things. But so what did you guys do to manage his mental health when things like that happened? Did you shut his DMs down, or how
He
did you handle
would.
it?
He's self-regulated.
Good for
He would
him.
try to encourage us, like, please don't pay attention to it. But I know it got to him. He had a really rough junior year. It was really rough. Like, he wasn't performing like he was supposed to. The fans were on him. I know my baby. I know mentally he went through it. He was in Ann Arbor. It was dark. It was cold. He was living by himself. But we're close. So, I stayed in close contact with him. Michigan had a really good mental health team. So I know he was close to one of the guys on their mental health team. So he did what he could do to just like be through that moment. And we just stayed close to him. I traveled to stay with him quite a bit just to be there so he would have a home cooked meal and just someone to come home to. So yeah, we stayed close to him. I think you underestimate what these kids go through, and if you're a parent, of course. But
Right.
if you think it's bad in middle school and elementary school and high school, college introduces a whole.
So one of the articles that have been reading recently, just because I try to keep up on things, said that during the 2024 NCAA season, over 54,000 messages on social media were flagged for potential abuse or threats towards student athletes. 4,000 were considered or confirmed to be abusive, and more than 540 were directly related to betting incidents.
Yep.
And a lot of them had death threats. If you don't perform this, if you don't score 22 points and get 12 rebounds for me, I'm going to kill all of your family, or I'm going to do this to your family. And I don't think a lot of parents understand that it's that prevalent, because
It's that prevalent.
54,000 messages is a lot.
Yes.
140 death threats is a lot.
Right. Like, my husband would always say, could you get out there and do the same thing these kids are doing day in and day out? Could you do it? Like, could you get out there and run up and down a court, for two halves? Could you do it? And then, T would know when he had a bad game. Like, he didn't need the world to tell him that. So it's like on top of, I'm glad he's self-regulated and would remove, he would not pay attention. He would deactivate his accounts during season. So I think you just have to really stay close to your kid to help them either find outlets, find ways to navigate it, or help them to just like self-regulate on their own and just know when to shut stuff down. I think these athletes are a bit savvier now and they know to just shut it down, but it's hurtful. Like sometimes that's like your kid. They're talking about your baby, your kid.
Yeah, I think people don't realize that they are teenagers and young 20s
They're not grown men.
socially and understand.
No, they're not. That's the thing. They're not.
It goes back to the importance of sending them up somewhere where you trust. So when those kind of things do happen, whether it's on the court or off the court, they get a low grade, a girl breaks up with them, a boy breaks up with them, they disappoint themselves by missing a kick or not scoring XYZ points. You need to have a place where that they're going to be safe away from your home.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
All of the big schools have mental health counseling. They have sports psychologists. You don't just have to go there because of a negative thing. You can go there to help your performance and see that sports psychologist for better performance in general.
Mm-hmm.
But so those resources are available, but I think you need to take a little bit more credit for how you raised your son, that he was able to self-regulate. I definitely think that was an environmental thing. I don't think all kids just naturally have that. Sounds like you and your husband helped him with that a lot.
I always say, Heather, at the end of the day, and I know you feel the same way about your boys. Sports, the ball, like as they say, the ball's gonna stop bouncing. I don't know what they say for football, but to this day, people say there's no greater compliment to me than when people say you got a good kid. Like he is just a good human being. Everything else is gonna work well for him. It's gonna fall into place, but no one can ever take your character. I tell him that. I was like, be a good person. At the end of the day, be a good person.
Yep. I agree with you on that.
Yeah.
That's so important because the ball does stop bouncing or, whatever at some point. Even though like my son's now coaching, it's completely different. He's now seeing it from the other side.
Uh-huh.
It's super interesting from my point of view now to ask him questions about how it's different. NIL is obviously different than when he was playing. It is.
Yeah. Grateful that T is able to benefit. He got hurt last year, so he was able to medical redshirt. So I'm grateful that he's been able to like benefit from 2 years of NIL.
So he was at Michigan for 4 years. You just mentioned a medical red shirt.
Yep.
For a parent that doesn't know what that is, kind of explain what happens with a medical red shirt for us.
Sure. So he graduated from Michigan, but all the kids that went to school in COVID got a COVID year. So for his COVID year, he went to University of Southern California. So about 5 games in, he fell, and we thought he sprained his wrist during a game, but ended up that he broke his scaphoid bone. It's this little itty bitty bone in the wrist that controls movement. So the good thing is I think you have had to have played 30% of the games or less. I might be getting the percentages wrong to medical redshirt. We were fortunate that he missed 2 games early in the season from a back sprain. That is the only reason he was able to skirt by with a medical red shirt. If not, he would have been done.
So technically, he's going to be a 6-year guy.
He's he calls himself the uncle. So because we didn't even get on the whole thing about reclassing because we reclassed him. So he was a reclass. He's the uncle of the team, but it's okay though.
Did you reclass him backwards or forwards?
We reclassed him backwards. We reclassed him going from 6th to 7th grade, middle school. That middle school year, we reclassed. He did 7th grade twice.
Wow. So he was already an older high school grad, and then he's got COVID, and then he got a medical.
Yeah,
so he really is Uncle T.
But NIL is changing though, because NIL in the transfer portal.
Yes.
So, you have guys that are probably going to stay for 4 or 5 plus. And now JUCO. So now with JUCO, they get those years of eligibility back. So you're going to have he's not the oldest on the team. He might be, I don't know. But you're going to see a lot of older guys staying because G League is not paying what you're going to get at NIL if you're good. So I think NIL is going to change the basketball, probably college sports landscape, period.
Which I don't think is necessarily a bad thing.
No.
Basketball had a lot of one and dones, and that's unfortunate for the universities because you lose that brand that superstar could have built over those years. And now we're going to get to see, hopefully, selfishly, we're going to get to see those kids play college basketball a little bit longer before they head off.
It's changed. So they will play longer, but it's also the price tag. So I think it's going to be, and I see why a lot of coaches are probably retiring because you have kids are chasing the dollar. We weren't chasing the dollar. We wanted T to be somewhere that was going to get him to the next level. So we opted to stay at USC for another year. He could have gone somewhere else for way more money. But it was the consistency of what Coach Muss was going to offer, the consistency of the staying at USC, and just the pipeline, just to see where he could go next. So it's not just about money, but let's face it, for some families, money is it. And so it's harder for a coach to create a cohesive team when you know that during the transfer portal they may get a better offer somewhere else. It's like what happens with coaches, right? But now it's just on a player level.
Yeah, it's very interesting. It's hard to follow. It can be heartbreaking when a new coach comes in. I don't know what happened at Michigan. Jawan's not there anymore, right?
No,
I don't know what happened in Michigan when a new coach came in and what happened with their roster. I know in baseball, I've seen a new coach come in and completely wipe the roster. And, you're talking wiping off guys that were rising seniors. I don't even want to get into the academic side of what that does, because still the goal at the end of the day is to get your degree.
Yeah, and he did with Michigan, he got his degree, and so it really was about where he wanted to go for his 5th year. We felt like he needed a change. They offered to have him stay. They wanted him to stay, but at that point, I think T was done with Michigan. He needed a different environment. He thought he was going to play outside of the Big Ten, but then USC came to the Big Ten.
Yeah.
He didn't leave conference, but
I was actually going to ask you that next. How is it to transfer unexpectedly within conference?
The good thing is he knows the conference. He knows, at that time he still knew the players. So the coach would look to him to figure like to scout out the team and to just like give some tidbits on what he knew about team and the team play. Now it's hard because the players are all over the place.
Yeah.
But he knew it was comfortable. So he got to be in LA, different coach, different atmosphere, but he still was in a conference that he was familiar with.
Very different.
Yeah.
Very different atmosphere.
How's
Yeah.
he like LA?
Huh? Oh man, what's not to like about LA? I joke though. So USC is downtown LA. It's not the glamorous Malibu, Beverly Hills. So I joke. I say when people say they want to come to LA, they don't mean LA. They mean Malibu. They mean Beverly Hills. They mean like West Hollywood. They don't mean LA because his apartment is nice, but he's in downtown LA. Yeah, he likes it though. He loves it. That's all that matters.
My son went to Miami, and we live in a pretty small town in Florida, so I didn't know how he was gonna like it.
Uh-huh.
That boy is all about Miami now.
Yeah.
He
He
just
loves LA.
loves that big city vibe.
Yep.
Sounds like T is the same way, just
I
drawn
mean,
to it.
whenever you have a bad day, to be able to drive out to the beach and just sit and just listen to the water, or just go out and see the sun and palm trees, and know you're never going to see a -0 degree weather day ever, like Ann Arbor. It's good for your mental health.
Yeah, he's not gonna have any snow days in LA.
No snow days.
Not like Ann Arbor.
No. I mean, he still thinks 40 degrees is warm and will wear a sweatshirt and shorts. So yeah, it has changed him.
That's awesome, actually. That's really great. My kid's the same way. That's funny.
That's funny.
So, Jasmine, you want to get to the wrap it up questions?
Sure. So, Melanie, what do you believe was the secret sauce to T's success and your family success?
We stayed humble. T was never allowed to be a superstar. Even with the rankings, like he was never. It was about it's school first. Like basketball was second, but you gotta maintain your studies. He wasn't a. I was fortunate though that he wasn't like a huge party kid. He wasn't one of them kids that hung out. One, he didn't have time because his father kept him strict to his workout routine. So I would say the secret sauce was humility, character building. We didn't try to save him from the negative aspects of sport. It built life and it built character in him. So I think the humility. I would say humility, character building, sticking to a strict routine, and just staying close to him. We kept our hand on T, and we still do.
Yeah, I think we all will.
Yeah.
So, what was the most challenging part of the journey?
Trying to like, I mean, because you can only control what you can control. Navigating the uncontrollable. So navigating, I would say like the world around us. So keeping him close. He's a black male, so trying to keep him not in trouble or not with the wrong crowd, so to speak, or not hanging out partying all the time. So that's also strategically, now we can admit it, now that he's 24. But my husband was intentional about keeping his time busy every minute, every day. Like he worked out even on Sundays. So we were really intentional about that because of the outside forces, and the pull for our black boys is strong. And so I would say they're just trying to keep him from that world, and then just navigating the people are freaking mean, just like navigating the meanness of people and just staying focused on his path and his journey.
I love what you said there about being intentional with his time.
Mm-hmm.
That's actually really powerful. I mean, honestly, that's very powerful,
Yeah.
and a good message for other parents that are about to navigate this, because you do need to be intentional with your time, with your children in general. But I mean, especially this journey is very challenging. So that's good. That's very, very good.
And if you have an extended family, like my mother, I was blessed that my mother lived with us, and so he got good old school values from my mother. That was her first grandchild, so she loved her some little T. And so she also kept him close. So like, Lena, if you have a support system, you need it. Like, it's a role for everyone. And I always say, I shout out our village, because it wasn't just my husband and I, it was our entire village, from extended family to immediate. So, lean on your village. Yeah.
Good stuff. That's really good stuff.
Exactly. One thing you wish you knew back then that could be beneficial to somebody right now.
I go back to the whole middle school ages. That stuff does not matter. It's not poignant. It's not the most poignant thing I could say, but they take advantage of those middle school parents. I'm telling you.
They do. It is a special time. in basketball and in soccer and those highly recruited from travel team time. You're right.
Yes, I'm
You are
telling you, we thought there was nothing. Like we were like, oh, middle school was it. Like this is that's my one lesson.
That's a good one. That's a unique one too.
I could have gone poignant, but no, seriously. I'm gonna save some parent out there some heartache and money, hopefully. Like if your kid doesn't want to play, listen to him. He doesn't want to play. Save you some money.
And now you have, when you go to your games, you have your clear bags that you have to bring in. What are 3 items that you always have to have in that bag when you go to the game?
Figuratively or literally?
Literally.
Oh, see, I take a little baby pouch. So I have have a fanny pack. So definitely my cards, my wallet, my phone, and my lipstick, because you never know when you're going to be on the jumbotron. I always say that. I was like, oh my God, I have to get these grays gone because I might be on the jumbotron. Like I lost weight. I was like, I cannot be like pinning on me and be like, oh God, that's his mom. So yes, I always have to make sure that
Can't
basketball
make you look
bracelet
bad.
for the jumbotron.
He's gonna be like, oh, my mama didn't put her lipstick
I
on.
know, like he probably doesn't even care, but yeah.
What is she doing? That's good. I think lipstick and lip gloss and stuff has been our most common, Jasmine.
I think that's everybody. Everybody
Yeah.
kind of lip covering.
Yeah, yeah.
Because I'm telling you, never know when you're going to be on it.
Well, you have an advantage to football moms because you're always indoors. So you don't have to worry about, sunscreen or ponchos.
I don't know how y'all do it. I'm so grateful baseball and football did not stick. I am not built for outdoors. And y'all are, Sheree would send pictures like the sub-zero degree. I don't know. High five to you, Heather, Jasmine, and Sheree.
The coldest I've ever been is at football games. And I would never be out in that weather except, my boy's on the field. So
See, I want to
layer
turn it
up.
back on you all because your clear bags are probably way more critical than me as a basketball mom. You probably have glove warmers and I don't know, all those little tricks to keep you warm.
But again, you had to think a little bit smaller because every game was a away game for you. So that makes sense that you had a fanny pack versus the bigger clear bag. You had a little bit more compact attitude. I never considered that.
Whatever I needed, just in my little fanny pack.
I like to sneak water in because it's so expensive in a stadium. Can you do that as a parent?
No,
in basketball?
I'm telling you, I waste money. I just buy the water. Or usually I'm not even drinking anything. My husband was like, he's a big, like, have dinner in the stadium. So he's going to bring the hot dogs. I'm like, where are we? We're not at the restaurant. Like, what? Again, I didn't want to be seen eating a hot dog or something. That's trying to come over me. It's all about just maintaining my composure.
Pretty. I love that. That's awesome. Where I was in South Florida and I was either sweating or it rained and then like you're just humid or then
you need water. I didn't need water. Really, you need it.
And look, it's not cheap. I don't know what kind of water they think it is in the stadium or how it's more special than it is when you buy it at the grocery store, but
sneak water in. That's a good. Okay, don't tell your secret.
No. So parents go through a different line than the regular fans. So sometimes the security people will just be a little nicer.
Okay.
They'll let you bring the water. And some stadiums actually do let you bring water. And you mentioned UVA. I think your daughter goes to UVA?
He goes to UVA.
Yeah, so when you go to UVA, there's a sign that says you're allowed so much water through the parent. So you can't bring like a gallon.
That is another lesson, I would say. And the gate people, your friend, because they will look after you. They'll call you around, let you, like if there's a long line, they'll let you come in because they will.
Always be nice to everybody that serves you.
That's what I say.
Thank you for your time. We haven't had a basketball mom, so you are super important for us to get that basketball perspective. So hopefully we didn't ask too many silly questions about that stuff.